For me, Rendang is a very difficult book to describe because it comes, I guess, from a place of confusion and unknowing. And the only way I found to make the poems, which are interlinked and cohere, make sense to me, was actually through, I guess, a number of geographical markers, mainly in London, which is where I've always lived and grown up, and through making it quite an outward book, or maybe I think of it as a book of encounter. A lot of the poems center on meeting people on the street. I guess it's about the way that those continual ruptures of the self from outside constitute a form of identity. And it's also, on another level, like every poetry collection, just about language and the way that words and communication can break down at important moments. Maybe a breakthrough in terms of the poems for this book was letting myself write more freely and then editing later. The first drafts of a lot of the poems were written very quickly, and maybe later they were edited, or they took a different form, or they went into other poems. I kind of think of that as the second stage, almost like the compositorial stage of editing, where you kind of cut and remix and reshape and bring together other elements. And that to me is almost the exciting bit. And I'm always trying to get to that stage where you can then shape what you've done. But the first part is almost just letting your unconscious find a kind of verbal form. One of my favorite quotes about poetry, which Veronica Forrest Thompson, a great poet critic, quotes at the beginning of our book, Poetic Artifice, it's from Wittgenstein, it's a very long intro, is that poetry it uses the language of information, but it isn't employed in the language game of giving information or of providing information. So I would say that that's one of the things that people often don't get about poetry or are frustrated by, because it's presented to them as on the page as a text. It looks like it could be a short story or a newspaper article. You know, it uses words. It's in a small box. It's in a boxy shape usually, but it's not doing that game. It can't be passed in one reading. To me, it's just closer to a song or song lyrics, where you can't pass the lyrics of a song usually on one listen. You kind of enjoy the other aspects, the kind of the relationship between the lyrics and the harmony, that kind of thing. But you could say that, yeah, poetry is defined by its opacity or by its refusal to communicate directly. And that's one of the reasons I like it, because you don't come to it with the assumption of clear and direct communication. You come to it with the opposite assumption, which is exciting because it opens up a whole other domain of meaning making.